Ladies and gentlemen, please can I ask that we start making our way back to our tables for the resumption of the program. We are ready with the second half. We are ready to rock and roll. Why does it look like half of the guests have disappeared? Does everybody else get that feeling? Are you going to sort them out, Mr. President? We are led. I can see you listening, eh? Quoting me word for word. So that nobody gets too upset with me, huh? Shall we grab our coffees, get back to our seats? I'm terribly excited to introduce our next speaker. I beg your pardon? Thank you very much, Alvin. Thank you. Okay, as everybody's making their seats, we'll press on now because we're running about 10 minutes behind schedule, but hopefully we'll make that up when we reach cruising altitude. Our first speaker for the second half, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Gerard van Zyl, who is the Group Operations Director at Asimotech. I asked earlier on if I could see a show of hands who was at the freight conference in February. There were just a few hands, and for those that we acknowledge you, honorable member. For those that were not there, Mr. Gerard van Zyl and Mr. Munya Hutsu are proving to be the A-listers of the CILTSA red carpet. They're showing up at most of the conferences. And one noteworthy thing to know about Mr. Gerard van Zyl is that not only is he an expert at warehousing, and he's going to speak to us about the current challenges we are facing in warehouse preventing automation, but he's also in the Guinness Book of Records, ladies and gentlemen, for some golf tricks. So please give him a warm round of applause as he comes to the front. Welcome, Gerard. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And for CILTSA, Catherine, and for the guys from the Transport Forum, Harry, thanks very much for the opportunity again to just have let's call it a controversial talk around warehouse automation. And I want to kick off by saying the only reason why I ended up in the Guinness Book of Records, and I said that earlier, is because they ran out of space and they need to fill a couple of blank spaces. They asked me if it was for hitting a golf ball, the longest usable club further than 100 yards, and it was a 4-meter long golf club. And this was quite a few years ago when I was still young and agile. I like being controversial in the sense that it gets our minds away from perhaps sometimes looking at something in a specific way. Being in logistics for over 30 years and starting my career off in the manufacturing side, and I've basically been throughout the entire logistics space in multiple industries, pharma, nutraceuticals, IT, and the last 20 years has been mainly in the 3, 4, 5PL space on the FMCG side. And let me quickly see how many of you guys, I see the guys from Values here, so they will understand what I'm talking about. Anybody else that plays within the 3, 4, and 5PL space, preferably in the FMCG side that's here? Okay, so it's basically the guys from Values in today's time, as far as trying to keep all these little elements together. And then you get the guys that has been here that tells us about all these wonderful things that can happen. I had the privilege of being at the DHL facility that does the Ricoh cameras and all the associated products with the copiers and so on in Germany. And it's incredible to see how an automated warehouse works. And I always dream and I say, oh, maybe one day. All right. So what are the current challenges that we are facing as far as where we are at? How many of you driven up this road that comes past here, this main road from the highway, the N14 this morning? Did you guys see all those squatters, all the shacks, all the guys on bicycles? That's a reality. We can't wish it away. You can come past Diepsloot on the N14. You can't wish it away. We were asked earlier, and I had the privilege of presenting in the previous conference around the unemployment issue that we have versus what are we going to do in terms of automation and how are we going to find that balance. And I'll touch on that briefly because once I get carried away on that, that's a whole presentation on its own again. So one will have to take your operation, whether you have got a 3PL warehouse, whether you are a Woolworths or and nowadays Pick and Pay's warehouse is actually also a 3PL warehouse because although they're delivering to their own stores, they've got multiple principals delivering into their facility. So what you end up having is looking at your own facility and say, listen, what do I have here? This building that I have was never designed. It was never built for automation. I built this building 30 years ago, or I moved into this building 10 years ago. And how am I going to change this to become at least a partially or a full automated facility? What are the strengths that I have in terms of my operation, and where are the weaknesses within my operation so that I can say perhaps I should start here and not go for a full automation? And it makes me think, I was telling one of the previous speakers just briefly, 20 years ago, TFD, Tongaat Food Distributors, they were bought by Imperial. Imperial is now subsequently been bought by DP World, but they had a fully automated warehouse in Boksburg. Automated picking, down a beautiful chute on conveyor belts, came to a pallet and they palletized the pallet and they put it on a truck. That lasted for about 3 weeks, 15 million rand later, total disaster. For reasons that we will look at a little bit later. Where's Charles? Charles, you there? You know that the facility in Durban, we look at the airport there, King Shaka Airport, Dubai Trade Port, 850 million cargo facility, automated. Forklifts bring the pallets into the various racking, and you've got a robot that comes and picks the pallets, and they palletize the ULD containers on the other side. That lasted for about a week and a half till one of the forklift drivers pushed the pallet too far, broke a PLC, and all of a sudden the robot couldn't work. Those are the realities that one faces in an African space. And unfortunately, it boils down to the level of labor that we have, the level of education that we have, and we can go on and on and on and on. Does that prevent automation down the line? No, it's not going to prevent it. Is it going to delay it? I think it is. That's my personal opinion. I think 100% right. It's inevitable. But I do not think it's going to happen within the next 3 to 5, even perhaps to 10 years in the way that we're seeing it happening in Europe. Because our challenges that we are facing in the African continent, and I had the privilege, if you draw a line north of Ghana from the east coast to the west coast, I've been to every single country in Africa. I set up 9 warehouses from scratch in just slightly post-apartheid era when South Africa wasn't the flavor of the month. I got arrested twice for being in the wrong place in the wrong time and being white in a black country, and they didn't understand what a white Okie is doing in a country. And those are the realities. And unless you've been there and unless you've been on that floor, you will understand that the challenges that you are facing are ones that goes far beyond the willingness to want to automate. These are socio-economic challenges that we face that is not going to be addressed by efficiencies, big global corporates like a DSV or a DP World that comes in and say, well, we have been automating all over the world. Let's automate in South Africa. And when they get to the competition tribunal says, yes, you can automate, but no job losses. Oh, well, there goes our plan, because we were going to get rid of checking. The checking function in the outbound process is going to become obsolete because why? We're picking 100% accurate. Why do I need checking? Nowhere in the world do we check. We don't check in Germany. We don't check in the Netherlands. We don't check in, for that matter, in America. That's unique to South Africa. And then we've got a double check, and then sometimes a triple check, because the checker checks the checker, the checker, they check the picker. Because we can't afford to lose the stock. I see these value guys are smiling. I'm talking the truth, am I? It's exactly how it is. All right. So we all have got existing systems in some form, shape, or size. You've got a WMS system, whether that be Red Prairie, whether that be Great Plains, whether that be SAP, whether it be Oracle, it doesn't matter. You've got some sort of ERP system. And then you throw in there your WMS system. You might have some warehouse management system of sorts. Now, let's be honest, guys. How many of you are struggling just to get your WMS system to talk to your ERP system? And then you throw in there a client that says, no, your system must integrate with my system. Otherwise, I'm not accepting your product. Sound familiar? Big retail groups. Not going to name them because there might be some of them listening and I don't want to throw myself under the bus here. But that's the reality. That's the reality. Now we go from there onto our hardware. How many of us are struggling just to get through a 24-hour shift, making sure that our forklifts recharge on time, that we can have our batteries charged so we can go through a shift? And we're not even talking labor here. And then, oh my boy, IT departments, my biggest single headache. Because you can come up with the greatest ideas, and then IT said, no, we can't do it. No, we can't. We have come up with some brilliant soft automation plans for some of the bigger logistics companies out there. And then the operations guys think, man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. What happens? The IT department say, no, can do. You can do it up to here, but the moment you integrate into my information system, I don't want you to know what's going on in our WMS or ERP system. And then obviously the structural challenges for hard automation. It's much easier to do automation within a predefined, pre-planned, pre-built structure than try and build it into an area that is completely not designed for it. You can just drive up the road on the N3 and you go there in that beautiful park called Limbro Park. Go look at the facilities that are there. Those are 3rd and 4th generation tenants that are in those buildings. When that building was originally designed, and even in the new logistics parks here in Centurion, that's by Growth Point, all those are stock standard facilities, 4 walls, roof, thank you very much. But try and just see where you're going to put a battery bay in for your forklifts, for that matter, for your robots. It's open heart surgery. And that's the reality of how these parks has been established over the years. And those are the structural changes that we are going to face as far as hard automation. But I want to make it very clear, guys, I'm all for automation. I do believe this is the future. And I do believe it's a matter of adapt or die. But I do not believe, however, that is going to happen overnight. I do not believe it's going to happen in the next 5 years in the South African and in the African context for a variety of reasons, as I mentioned earlier. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the slide. It has been covered extensively around all the various elements in terms of the automation process and the supply chain automation. Quite interesting. We quite heavily, one of our companies in our group, and just to correct, I see on the program it says Group Operations Director is CILTSA. CILTSA is just one of our companies in the group. The group is actually the professional group of companies. So we've been in aviation for 45 years, and I myself has been a pilot for over 30 years. And it's quite interesting to see what has happened in terms of automation within the aviation space in the last 10 years. And I'm not even talking commercial space, I'm talking just in the general aviation space. I mean, you look at the aircraft and the avionics, and you look at what the capabilities are of aircraft that are 10 years old versus aircraft that's coming off the production line now. It's incredible. And just for the gentleman that said about drones, we were the first country in the world that had drone regulations, Part 101 of the Civil Aviation Regulations. We're the first country in the world that had drone regulations. I was at Nampo last week, and I can tell you there's a revolution in the agricultural market with drones. The days of crop sprayers are gone. Drones are spraying crops. I don't even know what the ratios are, but far more efficient, far cheaper, far more effective, can fly lower with no safety issues as far as life and limb is concerned. If you've never seen crop spray in an aircraft trying to spray a piece of agricultural land and end up in the power cables, that happens. So yeah, just something off the topic on the aviation side. Also not, again, this was a slide that I was going to go through, but again, it was covered extensively with the esteemed colleagues earlier in terms of all the technologies that are available. I do, however, want to focus a little bit more on the next part of the presentation on the bottom end of this, which is around the soft automation. And what are the things that we can do right now already becoming more competitive? And I'm not going into optimization in terms of your supply chain. I'm going to talk about practical stuff right now in your operation, stuff that you've got, that you can just do it in a different way. And you're already starting the journey towards automation. All right. So I think this is my last slide on the challenges. Obviously, guys, it's expensive to automate your facility, whether it's soft or hard, doesn't matter. I mean, you look at the WMS implementation. WMS implementation, you're not going to get much change on 3-4 million rand at the moment, just for a normal standard warehouse management system. Talking ERP, if you're going Oracle, SAP, I'm talking SAP Business One, not SAP R3. If you SAP R3, 15-20 million rand. You're not going to get much change on that. So even with the stuff that we are doing right now, it's extremely expensive. So one must make sure, what is the dream? What is my plan? Where do I want to go? What's this going to look like? And how much is it going to cost me? And whatever that cost is going to be, is in my lifetime, am I actually going to get my money back? Whether that be by being competitive, getting a bigger market share, whether that is getting my product out cheaper, whether that is to perhaps take out a competitor, whatever your strategy is, but that benefit that you're going to get at the end of the day needs to obviously outweigh that capital investment or that cost investment that you have to do. Otherwise, I'm asking the question, why do it? What's the benefit? Except of saying, well, I'm automated. And? All right. If we then look at your current constraints, and I'm so glad that they mentioned the lack of expertise that we have around automation and IT departments. I mean, you speak to a typical IT department, and I'm talking about the larger groups, the RCL Foods, the Woolworths, the DSVs. You go and look at those IT departments. These IT departments are all geared around software, around computers, around the general stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I can phone him to sort out my email. I can phone him to sort out an issue on SAP. I can phone him to sort out a network issue. They know nothing about robots. They know nothing about autonomous operating vehicles within the warehouse. It's not in their field of expertise. So one must be careful that when you start going down that route, that you have that backup, as you've mentioned earlier, that you must have that backup. Otherwise, you're going to be up a creek with no canoe and a paddle. And the technology that I'm buying, this automation that I'm buying, is it going to do what I want it to do? Or is it too good to be true? Because it's really impressive to see a fully automated facility. It really is. But then I have to ask myself, Africa, interesting continent. Is it going to work in my facility? I was part of 2 project teams that went overseas to go and benchmark, and I'll touch on that earlier. And I know I'm stepping on toes here, but again, in advance, I apologize. It's not personal. It's just my personal experience. What do? The first idea that we get, guys, let's automate. Okay, guys, let's put a project team together. Everybody gets an aircraft. Let's bugger off to Germany. We're going to check out what's going on in that facility. And then we're going to bring what they do there. We're going to bring back here. It's going to work 100%. And then we all come back and we spend the millions and millions and millions. We bring that technology back here. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, we said, oops, why is it not working? Why are we not getting the results that this, as advertised, supposed to give us? Make sure that when we are benchmarking, when we are getting advice, that it's proven advice in Africa. Okay, we are unique. How many of you know where Katima Mulilo is? Have you heard of a place like that? Do you know how far Katima Mulilo is from Windhoek? 3 days by car. You travel through 2 countries, but it's still in the same country. And then from there to there, you might see 5 people. This is not Europe. You don't drive from here to there and it takes you 10 minutes, or you get on a train and 20 minutes later you're in a different place. But you know what? There's a spa in Katima Mulilo. And you know what? They have to get stock every single day. But it gets 45 degrees in Katima. There's 1 flight a week into there. Now, do you think that guy cares anything about a warehouse in Windhoek or the warehouse in South Rand that's automated? Do you think he cares? All he wants to know is that product needs to get to me. I'm so desperate for it because I've got 4 tubs of margarine left on my shelf. And I don't know when I'm going to get that. Those are the realities that we face in the Africa environment. We are very far apart with a very broken infrastructure. Who has traveled between Zimbabwe, up Zambia, the DRC by road? The railway system doesn't exist. 10, 15 kilometer trucks standing down a road with stock on there, 9 out of 10 times perishable stock, with generators running to keep that stock cold. They cannot get across the border because there's congestion. Now, thank goodness Botswana built a fantastic bridge across the Chobe, that side, and that's speeding up the process a little bit and taking some of the congestion out of Zimbabwe. But those are the realities that we are facing. You won't see that in a border crossing between Germany and France. You won't see it in a border crossing between, or not even a border crossing, state crossing in America. Those are the realities that we need to look at and take into account when we are considering automation. All right. Obviously, I covered the cost. I mean, there's various options. You can buy it, you can rent it, you can rent to own it, you can lease it. The beauty of technology, it's like a laptop. You buy it now, tomorrow it's antiquated. So I will always say, if it's a computer, an aircraft, a boat, don't own it, rent it. All right, so how are we going to break this down into looking at where our current challenges are? I've mentioned all of these things, guys, and I know I might sound harsh, but I also know you guys sitting here and you know what I'm saying is 100% correct. Let's not color it in and make it something that it's not. Again, I want to reiterate, can we do it? Yes. But let's just be realistic with what we have. From what base do we need to move to get there? And that we don't kid ourselves in the process to think, know what, I'll just get a couple of consultants in, they're going to build me this fantastic automated facility and life's going to be good and I'm going to save a lot of money and I'm going to be the leader of the pack. If that is the case, why is that entire DSV facility that they've built next to the R21, 1.5 kilometer long warehouse, why is it not automated? Why? Those guys don't have a shortage of money. They've got deep pockets and very long arms. Why is it not automated? Because they've realized that right now is not where the efficiencies is going to lie. They got bigger trouble to get their cars and trucks on the highway and off the highway than what they have in actually getting the stock out the warehouse. Because of congestion issues, because of infrastructural issues. And that's costing them far more than what that warehouse automation is going to cost them. I'm sorry I'm picking on the value, guys, but you guys kind of pointed yourself out. The reality is this. What is your single biggest cost in your facility? I'll answer you. It's transport, isn't it? Your single biggest cost right now is your transport cost, by far, because our diesel price is sitting at 22, 23 Rand a litre. Then throw on top of that the cost that you have to spend in terms of your electricity supply in your facility, because now all of a sudden you have to run generators if you don't have any renewable source at your facility. And then your third cost is your labor cost. And then your rental and all the other stuff that comes into your facility. Am I more or less right? So tell me, how's the automation in the warehouse going to help you cut your transport cost? Diesel is diesel. Unless you're going to go electric vehicles, but then you must be prepared to sacrifice a few en route because they are going to be distribution of wealth. Because those batteries power an entire squatter camp. And I'm not being facetious, guys. That's the reality. If you drive past here and you look at these guys, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're riding on their bicycles to get to work because I'm going to discipline them if they're not going to be at work on time. And that's the reality. We as a company employ over 1,000 people. And I can tell you it breaks my heart every single day to think that I can't do more for them to change who and where and what their circumstances are. But one can only do as much as you can. All right. So you see, I mustn't get going here. Get the buy-in of everybody when you do decide to embark on a automation process. And when I say that, we have seen it ourselves. We have in our facilities where we are, clients like a Woolworths, like a RCL would outsource certain functionality within their facilities to us. And what we do is we try and bring the most cost-effective solution for that, whether that be an outbound process, whether it be an inbound process, reverse logistics, it doesn't matter. What we are trying to do is to make that as cost-effective by combining technology and labor. Now, what we have found is where we just bring in technology, there's this massive resistance on acceptance of that technology. Firstly, because we sit with a massive education problem in South Africa. 30% is accepted to get a matric certificate. Now you're trying to explain to this, okay, how an AR unit works. And those are the realities that we are facing that we need to address. And I did in my previous presentation discuss how we can do it, not waiting for government, not waiting for the Department of Education, but starting within our own organization to start doing that. So here's the thing. Make sure that you get the buy-in by making sure that there's a clear understanding of how this is going to assist them, not replace them. And then what we have found has worked exceptionally well is pick the low-hanging fruit. Start off with the small stuff, this easy stuff to automate. And I'll show you some examples of where we've done this with normal CCTV cameras. We have got information, we've automated certain processes. And in the process, we got the buy-in from the labor side because they understand, but hell, this is make my life much easier. This is going to enhance my performance. So make sure that you know where these low-hanging fruits are. Make sure that you know where these soft targets are, that you can go for them. And once that person or employee starts buying into the process, what you will find is the bigger stuff will become easier to implement. When you do want to put robots in, and when you do want to put your drones in, and when you do want to put all these amazing hardware in, they will trust you because they will believe that you're doing it for the benefit of everybody and not just for the benefit of the business. But when you go in with a hard approach from the start, I can promise you, if you haven't been in labor in South Africa, good luck. Let me know how it goes. Because when that building is lying in a heap of ash and burned down, or those robots are hanging off a ceiling somewhere, and you want to take a union to the CCMA for destroying company property, let me know how that goes. This is South Africa. When people are unhappy, they will make sure that you understand they are unhappy. And they will do it in a spectacular fashion. And I'm not justifying the behavior, guys. I'm being realistic. When there's no service delivery in a specific township, what happens? They burn the school down. Now, I know it doesn't help because that's what we're supposed to do. We educate the people so that we can get better service delivery. But it's an emotional thing. When you don't have food to eat and you don't have a roof over your head, that's what you revert to. Maslow hierarchy of needs, basic instincts at the bottom, survival. All right. Yeah, I've even skipped a slide here. Okay, so one of the things, for example, most warehouses right now in South Africa, in Africa, operate in terms of normal scanners. I mean, if you've got scanners, you've already gone way down the line. I mean, I remember the days when you had a piece of paper and you had to pick from that piece of paper and you had to walk up and down the aisles and tick what you pick, and then you put it on a pallet and it gets to an outbound process, and then you take another piece of paper and then you count what's on the pallet, you write it down, and then some other oakie takes these two pieces of paper and they compare the two numbers and say, you know what, you're right, that's what's supposed to be there. And you know what's a sad part? There's still warehouses operating like that. I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a big facility sitting in Windhoek that operates exactly like that. They got one scanner and all it does is scans the paper. Doesn't do anything else. And you know what? They're quite successful. Are they going to be around another 10 years? Well, if the rest of the world discovers Namibia, then perhaps not. But until then, they will be fine. So what am I saying? Break down the dream, make sure we pick the low-hanging fruit, and then I want to talk about scanners. I mentioned scanners. Here's a very inexpensive way of replacing scanners, but getting far more value for your money. An AR unit, that's a normal wearable with a ring scanner on the bottom. AR unit can do exactly what a scanner does, but it can do so much more. And it costs exactly the same as a decent scanner. You're talking 35, 40,000 Rand. You guys that know, that's what a scanner costs. If you're looking for proper smart scanner. Why not go this? And this is what you're doing here is you're creating far more by doing the same thing, but just differently. See if I can show you this quick little video here. And there we go. Is it going to play? Why is it not playing? Okay. Okay, let me go back. If everything else fails, do what you did last. It's very strange that it doesn't not play.
Is the link that you?
No, it's not a link. It's just the embedded video. It was playing on my one.
On the ground. Okay.
All right. While we're trying to figure this out, basically what this video is where a guy in an outbound process is basically receiving stock from the pickers. And with this AR unit, we were sitting in a control room. This happened in Limbo Park. We were sitting in a control room in Pretoria and basically communicating with him around the checking that he was doing. He was scanning the boxes. He was recording the boxes. He was recording the...
One case. That's one.
And there we go.
2947. 2947, one case. That's one.
And while he was doing this, everything was recorded. So I have visual confirmation that what happened in the outbound process is exactly what he says it's happened. And I can interrogate him that if he's missed something, I can react. Now, I know AI is going to replace all of this. And he's 100% right, it is. We've already started looking at algorithms that I can look at what we call object recognition. That all the guy has to do is look at the box and I'll know it's the right box. Doesn't have to do anything else. Now, there's a lot of development worldwide happening on image and object recognition. I'm not going to go into that detail. There are far more clever people here that can answer and talk the detail around that. But all I do know is that this is just a small change to an existing process that's already making a vast difference. Because here's the single biggest challenge. Logistics is very simple. I want to get the right product as quick as possible at the cheapest rate to the client. That's logistics, nothing complicated. But yet again, it's the most complex process that there probably is. Here's another example of just a camera in the back of a vehicle that we have created algorithms on, created rules that we can count how many things are moving into the truck. Nobody's sitting there going 1, 2, 3. They just move the stuff through the camera and the camera tells us how many things has moved into the truck. So if I must be 17 pallets in the truck, if there's 16, I will be notified. If there's 18, I will be notified. Very simple, very inexpensive. See if I can, the down arrow. No, okay, that's a good one. Where is the down arrow? Oh, the down arrow, my word. See, that's why I'm not supposed to be in technology. So this, what you are finding here is where the stock is being moved from, and I've just showed you the one angle. There are two cameras, one on the outside, one on the inside. So you can count what's going past that camera, and it confirms what goes past the next camera. This is automation. And it's simple. I mean, give you an idea. We can do this for you for 800 Rand a truck a month. 100 trucks, where's my maths now? Is it 80,000 a month? It's about right. 80,000 Rand a month. You lose one pallet of stock, there's 100,000 Rand gone. I guess that's quite not a bad investment. All right. So just finishing up on how do we do that? How am I for time? I see this thing hasn't shouted at me yet. All right. Take your time. Don't rush into it. Make sure that you run detailed POCs as far as you can that's unique to your operation. I reiterate, don't be scared to run a POC. Don't be scared to get the clever guys in and say, come and show me in my operation. Yes, I believe you it runs in a warehouse in Atlanta. I've seen it, it works. I believe you it runs in a facility in Germany. I've seen it, it works. But that's not my facility. It's not my people. Come show me here. Who of you guys drive German cars? Did you just walk in and say, well, I want that one? Or did you go and test drive it between the different models and make sure that this car gives you what you want before you part with that $1 million that it's costing you? But yet we just take somebody's word for it that it will work in my facility. And if somebody is worth their money, they won't hesitate to say, well, I trust my product well enough or my process well enough, I'll come do it for free. That's what we do. Don't have a problem to come and show you what we're talking about here. We are busy now. They're starting tomorrow. 23 cameras that we're installing in an outbound process that's going to count the pallets for us. My cost, I don't mind. Why? Because I know you're going to buy it. Why? Because it's going to give you something without upsetting your workforce, but it's going to give you something else that you're currently relying on people to give you. And ultimately, we are not even going to watch those cameras anymore because the AI is going to take care of it. Normal CCTV cameras. I was so glad that that previous colleague also spoke about the CCTV cameras on shopping centers. Behavior detection. Every time you walk into OR Tambo Airport, do you know that your behavior is being monitored by artificial intelligence? Did you know that? So if I want to know a person with gray pants, blue pants, gray shirt, it will give me everybody that matches that. It will tell me what your movements was over the last half an hour. But you know what's the amazing part? It'll give me, the algorithms are written in such a way, it'll give me 5 predictions of what your next moves are going to be. That's what they're doing in America at the moment. That's what they're doing through hubs like Qatar and Doha and Dubai. And that is how they're detecting individuals that could be potential threats through behavior detection. Now that's happening in a shopping center with normal CCTV cameras. The clicks wants to know, what does my customer profile look like between 8 and 10 in the morning? They don't have to have somebody sitting there saying, okay, how old are you? Okay, male, check. Okay, I don't know, check. We can do it with normal CCTV cameras that's used for security. It's there. Just a different application with what you've got. All right. Make sure that the IT department is aligned with your plans and with your dream, and that they've bought into it. There's nothing that frustrates an operations person more than administrative and IT people, because they always tell you we can't do it. And all I want to do is I want to get the product to the customer. So get their buy-in from the start. And I'm so glad this was mentioned in every single presentation, finding reputable partners. Cheap and nasty is not the way to go here. Make sure that you get somebody that you can rely on that's going to be there when the popo hits the fan. It's like flying. And I always say to people, flying is easy. Flying an airplane is the easiest thing in the world. But you know what's difficult is when the things go wrong upstairs. That's why they say that big thing in the front is not there to keep the aircraft in the air. It's there to keep the pilot chilled. Because that thing stops, the pilot starts sweating. That's when flying becomes complicated. Automation is easy when everything goes well, but when it goes south spectacularly. And then you go and try and explain to the board of directors the 100 million that you've spent. Sorry, we can't get the stock out the warehouse. conclusion. As I said before, and I think every speaker has said before, automation is inevitable. Love it, leave it, lump it, but you're still going to do it. Whether it's going to hard automation, your entire facility is going to become one big robot, I can't answer you on that. What I do know is that we've in certain instances already started automating. However, I do believe that we can work smarter, still with the responsibility of employment in Africa. Because guys, let's not kid ourselves, every single person here, whether it's your domestic worker, your garden worker, your factory worker, your warehouse worker, your driver, your van assistant, whoever it is, we have got a responsibility in South Africa to fix the unemployment rate. If we're going to wait for government, it's never going to happen. We have to do it. So keep that in mind when you are making decisions in terms of your facility. Make sure that you take the cost versus benefit ratio into account over what period, what's going to happen. But I reiterate, it's like rule number 1, I'm always right. Rule number 2, when I'm wrong, refer to rule number 1. Rule number 1 is automation is inevitable. Let's just be clever about it. And now I just want to show you, as much as we go for automation, and this is just behavior proving again that there is that resistance to automation. There is that resistance to, from, let's call it our staff members, to circumvent automated processes, to try and bypass something that can put them in a difficult spot. And I want to challenge you and leave you with this thought, and I'm going to show you the last two videos, or one video. There's not one single person here today that I will challenge and say, you will not steal. I don't care how deep your belief is. I don't care how moral high ground you want to take. You will steal. All I have to do is put you in the right circumstances. That's all I have to do. And the circumstances might be different for each one of us. Here's a challenge. Who has got children in primary school? Still. Okay. Your child gets sick. It's not going to happen, but just hypothetically, your child gets sick. The only treatment is 10 million rand in the Mayo Clinic in America. And they guarantee your child's going to be perfect after that. You don't have 10 million, or perhaps you do, but you don't have 10 million. Let's make it dollars. Then I know you don't have it. $10 million. All you have to do is just turn a blind eye. Are you going to do it? Absolutely. I just had to create the right circumstances for you. Now, what's the difference between that and somebody else stealing a box of chicken? No difference. It's no difference. His circumstances are just different. So people will go out of their way, depending on their circumstance in the middle of the month. I'm not justifying their actions. Guys, we deal with it severely. Steal is steal. And if you get caught, I'm sorry, you must bear the consequences of that. But I'm just trying to leave you with a thought that one must be careful that you don't put yourself in a position of trying to play this moral high ground that, oh, these bunch of thieves. It's not right what they're doing. But guys, times are tough out there. It is not easy at the moment in this country, or for that matter in Africa. All right, so here's some footage of guys thinking that one... so this particular gentleman, this is again in a loading space. He knows there's a camera. So what does he do? He throws the stuff over the camera. Why is he doing that? Makes you wonder. Here's another one where the gent is trying to manipulate a camera that's in a truck, trying to see if he can, but unfortunately it was a closed dome camera, so it didn't quite work out for him. I don't know if there's any questions, and I hope I didn't upset too many people in the process. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Do not run away yet. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Gerard? Personally, I could listen to him forever. You've got such a wide volume of knowledge that you draw from. Very animated, demonstrative speaker. Every now and again, I feel like we have to say amen or hallelujah or something. But thank you. Thank you so much. What I love about how you wrapped up is that you are not in denial of the circumstances that we see around us, but you help us. How do we work out? How do we create a pathway out of that and create favorable outcomes one step at a time?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we let him off scot-free. No questions? Okay, we'll catch up with you at the panel, sir. The panel is waiting for you. Our second speaker for the second half is the CEO of Mamoja Trading and Projects. She's going to be talking to us about safety and technology in the logistics environment. Please, can you give a warm round of applause for Ms. Anna Ngateko from Mamoja.
Next slide, previous slide.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me also start by thanking CILT for inviting me to be one of the speakers today. I really feel honored. My name is Anna Ngateko from Mamoja Trading and Projects. And today I'll be taking you out of the warehouse a bit to the streets, and I'll be focusing on the safety and technology in the transport and logistics environment. As Fofa has mentioned, we regard ourselves as a company that offers total transport solutions for mining companies at the moment. We're still in the process of actually expanding, and currently we're still focusing in mining companies. Many people tend to ask me, why did I choose transport? Was it an inspiration from childhood? So every time I do presentations, I really like to make them more realistic so that people can follow me and actually engage with me as I'll be doing the presentation. It is indeed an inspiration from childhood. A picture that you're seeing over there, a lady that's sitting on the ground, sucking her thumb. It's this lady that's standing in front of you. That's my grandfather's yard. They used to own trucks. They used to sell sand. I grew up in a village called Babong. It's in the northwest, alongside the N4 National Road. So they used to own trucks. My dad also tried to get into the space, but there were things that were happening here. In that company, it was a family company, and they were jack of all trades. They didn't believe in money leaving the family, so they would do everything themselves, starting from driving to actually maintaining the trucks. They believed that they could do it. And the story didn't end well, especially for my dad. I remember he used to own one truck, and many times he tried to be a driver and a mechanic, as I'm saying. And in many instances, they would fight with my mom because that truck ended up taking from the coffers of the household instead of actually bringing in. Now and then he will fix an engine today, tomorrow it's something else. You know, I remember how at times he would even use wires just to keep that engine or that gearbox intact. I used to believe that actually a truck could move with only front brakes operating for the longest of time, until I got to the industry myself and actually had a hard slap. So I want us to look on the issue of why is safety in the transport industry important. You know, we always say in our operation, we need to understand the importance of safety, that it comes first. It is a priority before production. I understand we are all in business to make money, but you'll get to see that if you don't prioritize safety, you might end up losing money instead of making that whole ching that you're aiming to do. One of the reasons behind that, we know transport accidents are one of the major reasons for unnatural deaths. I got a slap on this one because I got to experience it myself. I lost a husband through a car accident. He was also in logistics. And then he was running to a driver that had called him because he was faced with a situation where they wanted to take the disc of the truck. So he also had an unroadworthy truck on the road. So as he was trying to rush there, he was involved in an accident, and unfortunately, I lost him. I was 23 years of age, 3 months pregnant, you can imagine. So you understand why safety is a priority in my company. And we also know that immediately a vehicle leaves the yard, it poses a risk to other road users. And it's also at risk, The minute you haven't done what you're supposed to do, you can have a truck going out of your sight and then a wheel coming off the truck. And you can imagine what would happen after that. And then sometimes we know that we have had issues of hijackings, which poses a risk not only to your truck, but to even the driver that is actually driving that vehicle. And we know any mishap, as I'm saying, doesn't only affect the driver and the truck, it also affects, your clients, the whole value chain. So let's focus on transport industry safety. We know that road transport operations transcend national boundaries and play a fundamental role in leaking supply chains. We've just been speaking now that we find ourselves having to take your products from your warehouses. And at times I find myself in a point whereby I even have to go across the borders. And transport operations, we know they play a very vital role in terms of development, national development, and stimulating economic activities. We've just been speaking now about the most pressing issue, which is unemployment. And unfortunately, or fortunately, transport addresses that as well. And then we know that workers who drive for a living have long list of extra considerations to take into account, keeping in mind when they enter a vehicle every day. You must understand that is his office for the next 9 to 12 hours. The challenges that he'll be facing whenever he's on the road that he needs to manage. And, if you work in transport, especially if you are a fleet manager, especially in terms of safety, you also need to keep in mind hazards that can actually affect your driver as well as your vehicles. I'm going to take you through some of the safety issues I personally had to deal with as I got into industry. Some were not so good. Some didn't put a good image to my company, but luckily, because of the systems that we've put in place now, our image has changed. We used to have, like I mentioned, we offering transport solutions to the mine. As you would see on that picture on the bottom left, we used to have issues of overloading. Like I mentioned, we are from Marigana. We use the N4 mostly whenever we're doing our deliveries. And we happen to pass the Bapong Road Traffic Center, where we have to go to the weighbridge. We're transporting platinum concentrate in a slurry form. We have found ourselves in many instances where we would be overloading, and our trucks would be stopped there by the weighbridge. And we'd find ourselves in a very uncomfortable position where we'd have to actually get people from the nearby villages to help us offload the product from one truck to the other. Imagine being the CEO of a company, looking at your product being handled like that. That product costs about 2 million. You are not sure as to whether you're going to lose some times on the process and all that. So that sort of like put a bad image on us. Another problem that we used to have was speeding, and we had lots of incidents because of that. Vehicle maintenance, like I said, with my dad, there was no vehicle maintenance schedule. They were jack of all trades. If he could miss an inspection, he would do that, thinking that he'll be saving money. And even ourselves, that's what we used to do before having the proper systems in place. We'd skip the vehicle maintenance, thinking that it would actually save us money. But then we got to realize in the long run that actually that is not the case. Lack of vehicle inspections, like I've just mentioned, so many things can happen as soon as you leave the yard. If your drivers didn't do a proper inspection, the wheel nuts are not properly tightened, as soon as it leaves that yard, you can have a wheel going off your truck. driver hours. We tend to take this very lightly, and whereas it contributes to most incidents that we have on the road. I don't know how many of you have seen when you're driving and you tell that this truck driver is probably sleeping. It's because of the driver's hours. Because we are pushing production, everybody wants to make sure that the clients gets his products on time. We never care as to whether do these drivers rest so that they can drive in a proper state. Reckless driving, I'm sure we all experience that on the road. And then distracted drivers, this takes you back to the usage of phones. These days we are glued to our phones. I'm sure none of us would leave a yard without a phone in his bag. So distracted drivers, we used to have drivers using phones to an extent that one day I had one of my drivers driving into a ditch because he was using a phone. False licenses. We are living in South Africa. We know things happen. A driver comes to you with a code 14 that doesn't exist. So if I have to find a way to actually make sure that the license that he's presenting to you is the right one. Load securement, bribery, and corruption. So what needs to be done? I always say risk assessment is the first thing. We offer tailor-made solutions for each client. We are not covering them with the same blanket. So with risk assessments, before actually starting to do their job, we make it a point that we go through the route to identify the hazards that are there on the route to the client. Up until at the site, to identify the hazard that they may be posed to. That way you are avoiding and limiting lost time injuries because that is a cost to even to as the company. We try by all means to eliminate distractions. By eliminating distraction, that is a usage of hands-free devices instead of a driver using his phone whilst driving. We understand that at times you need to communicate with them. Imagine you have a driver that has to drive from Rustenburg to Steelport. At times you need to engage with them. And a proper way to ensure that you do that in a safe way is usage of hands-free devices. Apologies. Reduce fatigue. This relates to the driver's hours I was talking about. So this is where you need to manage the driver hours and ensure that you limit his work hours. When it's time for him to rest, he does that without failure. And regular vehicle inspections. I remember back in the days, we used to do inspections, but we didn't have a proper defect register. And whenever we'd go for a staff meeting, drivers would say, I've been reporting this for the whole 2 months and nothing is happening. So regular vehicle inspection and actually having a defect register, that ensures that defect that was reported finally gets to be attended to and closed. Establish safe procedures for loading and unloading. You cannot assume that people know. So in my company, we ensure that we take people, before you could even go and drive that vehicle, we take you through the safe loading and unloading and offloading procedures. Why we're doing that is to ensure that we give our customers as well the best service, because the last thing you want to do is to find yourself, having issues with the customer's cargo on the way. Driver training, this is the most important in our operations. With a safety training in place and the development of a safety-oriented workplace culture, the transportation industry can continue to deliver goods and personnel efficiently while slashing overhead expenses. Training is very important. Like I said, with my family, it used to be jack of all trades. But the minute you have people that are trained, not only will you have quality job, it will be done efficiently and it will save you a lot, especially in your pocket, because you'll avoid incidents, you'll avoid many things that can happen in your operation. So we saw that as Mamoja, these would be the safety solutions for us. We realized that we needed a highly qualified on-site team. By a highly qualified team, I mean, starting from your mechanic, you need to ensure that you have a proper mechanic that can do the job that they're saying they're going to do. Utilization of reliable equipment to avoid the downtime, spending more time on the road because of breakdowns, because of incidents. You need to get reliable equipment. And we need to use the latest technology and systems. These make sure that you, at the end of the day, offer your services efficiently. Sorry. No. So the picture over there is some of the systems that we've put in place, as I'm saying. Back in the days, we used to do vehicle inspections. There they're doing tire inspections. It doesn't end with a driver just walking with a stick, hitting on the on the tires, because that's what we used to do in the past. We actually have a tire company coming on site to do a survey, because at times you will have a mismatch of tires that even cost you in terms of fuel consumption. A driver can know how to check a tire, but he doesn't have the full knowledge of how to do that. So having an on-site survey from an OEM is always better. Vehicle inspections, as I've just mentioned, they are very much important, and making sure that you close off all the defects that drivers have actually reported. Training, as I've mentioned, plays a vital role. Nobody does anything in our company that he's not trained on how to do it. So training is one of our most important aspects in our company. And we also use technology now, as you'd see on the right. That driver over there was falling asleep, and we have a SIM machine that would actually vibrate on the seat to actually wake him up whenever he closes his eyes for more than a few seconds. Coming to technology has really helped us. Not only has it saved us time, it has actually made sure that we run our company efficiently and with cost savings. Nice thing about technology, as you would see the importance of it, real-time tracking and scheduling. You get to know exactly where your load is at any given time by the usage of GPS systems. This even helps the customers to an extent whereby you give your customers access to these systems so that at any given time they can check where their load is. It also buys you confidence from your customers, because they know they can always locate your vehicle whenever they need to. Not only does it end there, you can even governize the routes that you're using, such that whenever a truck decides to go off the route that you have governized, you get actually a warning in your control room to say this truck is actually using the route that it's not supposed to be using. And then with automated systems, these ones I love the most, because that's where we try to use to avoid human errors. From ticketing, scheduling to maintenance scheduling, they've been really helpful, because back in the days, I'd have issues during invoicing where I'd be told that, no, you didn't account for this and that and that. And obviously that would actually hit on my pocket in terms of money. Fuel efficiency, now it's nice. You have trucks that are designed in such a way that emission of carbon monoxide is actually reduced. So that also helps in terms of fuel efficiency, as the previous speaker has just spoken. In the transport industry, the biggest cost is the fuel part, which is about 30 to 40% of your cost components. So having a reliable truck that actually reduces the emission of carbon monoxide really helps. And as well, now we even have systems that helps drivers to drive better in a way that it will save fuel in our business. When coming to safety, advances in technology have made transport safer. For example, electronic stability control and anti-lock braking systems improve the handling of vehicles, while driver assistance systems like lane departure, the minute a truck goes off road, the driver would get a message telling him that, no, now you are going off-road, you need to go back to the road. And adaptive cruise controls, they don't need to be sitting there, they can cruise just like you when you're driving your German car, and actually engage once they've rested. Connectivity, as I've mentioned, it's important. You need to be connected to your driver from the loading to the offloading point. So now it's even nice. We have onboard Wi-Fi where you can actually connect with your driver throughout the route until he comes back with your truck. I just want to take you to the slide and talk about those 3 batches and why they are important in safety. Actually, they are linked. I got to realize that I had to have those systems. For me, that is my business in a box. So RTMS sort of like handles all pillars of safety in my business. It makes it easy for me to comply. And then if I comply with the RTMS, then I'm able to offer quality service to my clients, which satisfies the ISO 9001. And the previous speaker just spoke about issues of theft and everything. We saw it fit that we need to be registered with the National Bargaining Council of Freight Industry. Why? To avoid things like, I remember how they used to steal diesel in my father's operation, 20 liters of diesel. And all these things are exacerbated by the fact that we underpay people. Issues of strikes that he's talking about. Ever since been in this industry, because my employees are actually under the bargaining council, eliminate them, but you can actually control them, because the minute you start paying people well, obviously it limits them thinking of things of hijackings. Hijackings are an inside job in most cases. It limits all those things that I've mentioned, them selling your tires, your fuel, and all those things. And yes, that being said, I just want to go to the last slide, where I'm going to share with you the technology solution at Mamoja, but I'm not going to be doing that myself. We're using Athra Solutions. The CEO of Athra is here. I'd like to give him 5 minutes so that he can take you through what his systems do. His name is Ntatele Tlhogonolo.
Good afternoon. No, it's fine. I'll talk through it. We want this picture. Okay, perfect.
Don't press these buttons. Only those.
Okay. Sorry about that. So basically, thank you, Anna, for giving me this opportunity to talk about. She asked that I come and speak to you about what we do for Mamoja. So essentially, what we assist with is TMS systems and access control through to her workplace. So, Harold, we provide the scanners that you indicated. So they have scanners at the gates and in the trucks. So she spoke about drivers coming with fake licenses and so forth. So we are integrated with SEPs. So when they scan their licenses or ID as they come to their workplace, we scan their license. We'll basically see from the Home Affairs and their license, we are able to compare the two license and ID. We are able to block people. So the 14 code fake license, they won't be coming back because we have flagged them to say they can't be here. So as well as when trucks come in, we are able to inspect them. So we validate the truck validity, the disc, as well as the license itself. with regards to, she was indicating about inspections. They're able to automate, check, inspect the trucks. And the driver she said the driver sometimes would say that I've reported this particular issue, but the workshop is not fixing it. Now, with this, we informing the operations, the workshop, the CEO, that this particular issue was reported on a particular date. So they're able to give reports. They have automated trip sheets. We automated refueling as well. So they're even able to reroute, schedule, pre-route their routes. So essentially, we have automated their entire operations. Their revenue is on a dashboard. Their fuel is on a dashboard. Their inspections, they're able to see the validity of the disc. They're able to see it online as well. So this particular access control, you are even able, not the access control, the transport management system. You as a warehouse, we are able to tell you, they are able to tell you from a reporting point of view to say, the truck has been standing outside your gates for 2 hours. Your loading time is this long. Your offloading time is this long. Even you prepare your documents takes this long. So they're able to give you a full report to say from outloading, offloading, the documentation, it takes so long, so that when they issue you or give you the report of how your warehouse processes in terms of loading and
inspect, if you fail to show the 5% destruction test, that truck will not be loaded. So as a result of that, it actually improved our controls in terms of traceability. We also did another project last year for solar structures as well. That was in Northern Cape. They also had their own way of dealing with quality traceability, because they needed the dimensional testing of every batch that we manufactured. Each time we needed to load, the inspector would come and check if there is one of them that is missing, together with the traceability from the sourcing of raw materials, all the stages that it went, you would not load the truck. So as a result of that, we are one of the top companies, and we pride ourselves that when we got a recertification audit in 2021, we passed that audit without a single finding. Are we on now? So I'm glad that all the speakers that have actually spoken here, the wrecking business still stands, because I heard about automation and I was watching the videos there. I'm saying, oh, okay. They are picking and loading into our wrecking systems. I'm glad. I was afraid that maybe this technology has actually created that the products will actually sit in a house and be floating somewhere, that we all need to pack bags and go home. Talking about what was being mentioned just now, my CEO was actually asking me the other day to say, what exactly did you win? What contribution have you done? Why are you the safety person of the year in South Africa? And she's about to see what my contribution is when we talk about all these slides that we will actually be showing now, once they are up and running. I'm a graduate member of CIOSH. CIOSH is the biggest lobby group in the development of safety laws in South Africa. It is a non-profit organization that is sponsored by IOSH in the United Kingdom. So we hold a lot of seminars criticizing the way the safety laws are structured in South Africa. Because we deal with our clients, we also have got a duty to make sure that they comply to the safety requirements. you'll see that we assist our clients in complying with the wrecking safety awareness principles. But today, I'm only going to talk about just a few. We have got a module that we train their employees. It's from module 1 up to module 8. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I'm going to talk about why do we need to comply with a place that is considered or declared to be safe is a place that is free of hazards and risks. How does that happen? The word safe, it means you must spot the hazard, assess the risk, fix the problem, and evaluate the results. This is what actually happens now when a client requires racking and shelving. They either give us a drawing from professional designers, like we had one of them earlier on here that designed the warehouses, or they give us, if they don't give us the drawings, we go and measure. And this is a typical layout that we actually give them. We have internal design department that are professionals enough to be able to maximize storage capacity for the client. And at the end of each rack system, we put in what we call rack endpoints. That is the first communication with the people that are on the shop floor that will actually be loading, so that they get to see what each level must actually load. And we also have situations where the racking gets damaged, and we are giving pointers here as to what are the major causes that cause the racking to fail or to collapse. And this could actually be resulting from poor installation, material handling equipment damage. That's why it's highlighted there, because these are the major incidents that we have in the warehouses. Uneven or unstable facility floors, beam or overloading, or even upright overloading, design defects, lack of driver training or improper equipment, because as a part of material handling equipment, you cannot license a driver to have a license for a counterbalance truck and expect to use the same license to drive a reach truck, because those are two different licenses. My subject then is, why do we need to worry about safety in the warehouse? Because we need to comply with legislation. Occupational Health and Safety 85 of 1993, Section 8. It states that it gives general duties of employers to their employees in terms of the racking, inspection, and maintenance. Section 9 deals with the general duties of employers to persons other than their employees that can be affected by the hazards and risks that the racking may cause. Section 13, it states that the employer has got a duty to inform employees about the risk and the hazards that are associated with their work. And Section 14 talks to the employees themselves. It gives the general duties of employees to take care of their health and safety in the work environment. And the Section 14A says every employee at work shall take care of his or her health and safety and those around him or her that may be affected by his acts or omissions. And Section 15 forbids employees from abusing equipment that is actually supplied in the interest of health and safety, like material handling equipment. We also have got safety regulations 8 that deals with how products must be staked. We also need to look at Construction Regulation 2014 that actually talks about structures. Item 11.2 says an owner of a structure shall ensure that inspections of that structure are carried out periodically by competent persons in order to render the structure safe for continued use. He then says that is the inspections contemplated in paragraph A are carried out at least once every 6 months for the first 2 years and thereafter yearly. The structure is maintained in such a manner that it remains safe for use. The records of inspection and maintenance are kept and made available on the request of the inspector. We also want to follow safety rules because we want to avoid the cost of accidents. Because accidents can cost the company a lot of money. I hope this video is going to play this time because it's important that this is a video that actually shows a forklift driver hitting the rack. We can see the forklift reversing there. You see, it has bumped the racking now. Look at what is happening now. We all see what has actually happened there and the chances of that forklift driver surviving are minimal. The next thing that you think about as a business is the losses that have occurred. Because every business is insured, you then phone your insurance company. The insurance company will also engage loss adjusters. Loss adjusters will come to your business. Now they're actually looking at analysis of standard used by manufacturer versus compliance by the end user. What they will need to look at there is the analysis of videos and photos prior to the loss. They start now looking at the General Safety Regulations 8, stacking of articles. These are the issues that they never told you when you signed up an insurance policy with them. From there, while we are worried about your losses, then these people will visit this. Once these people come, it's a different ball game altogether. What they are going to require from you is the duties of the employer, as the OSH Act, Section 8, that says every employer shall, in as far as reasonably practicable, have a work environment that has no hazard and safety to workers. And now you have had an incident in the workplace. Now they actually want to check whether you also complied with Section 13, which is duty to inform, driven machinery regulation 18, construction regulation 11. What they need to check from you now is written safe work procedures for that particular forklift driver, hazard identification and risk assessment records for your operations in the warehouse, induction and training records for that specific forklift driver, effective supervision records, legal appointments, because every forklift driver needs to have a legal appointment. It will state the do's and the don'ts. But most employers will just give him a letter of employment as a forklift driver. Planned task observations, records, injury statistics and reporting, housekeeping. We saw that as the forklift was reversing, there were some pallets that were left on the floor. It is expected by law that you must have also in an operation like that, she representatives that are visible on every ISIL at any given time, it is also expected that you formally appoint a housekeeper. So they actually now look at previous disciplinary records for transgression of safety rules. And if that is not there, they start walking around. When they start seeing things like this, they see that you have got a floor that has got either oil or water, and you don't worry about cleaning that. They walk to your yard, they find a lifting equipment is like in that state. They then have reasonable suspicion that the employer did not follow the law. Then the question is, what if the employer negligent caused an accident and the person died and could have died, just like we have seen in this incident? You will end up in this place. Now you now have got a problem in that now we have got a prosecutor and the inspector that investigated as the state witness. Where do you stand as the employer? Should the court find you guilty, with the current law now, you could be fined, you would be fined 100,000 rands, or 2 years in jail, or both. But believe you me, there is a new law that is actually coming. The blueprint is already there. It's at net, like now we are waiting approval. If you appeal this, it can get up to Constitutional Court, but you will still lose it because they will look at the Constitutional Court, Section 11. Everybody has a right to life. And through negligence of your operations, somebody lost their life. They will also open Section 24. Everybody is entitled to a healthy and safe environment or workplace. But should the inspectors come to your workplace, they ask for a risk assessment, and you are able to tick all those boxes. You are able to show that your employees are trained on the 10 wrecking safety commandments, learning the safe way to handle your wrecking, think safely and act safely at all times, obey safe rules and regulations, wear proper personal protective equipment, conduct yourself properly at all times, operate only authorized material handling equipment, inspect wrecking on a daily basis, advise supervisor immediately if any unsafe practices occur, report injuries to your supervisor immediately, support your safety programs and partake in meetings. They see that you have trained them in the safe way of loading a container. This is part of risk assessment because at the bottom there, it's actually showing that if you don't carry out the duty properly, this is what may happen to you. And they will be looking for this type of training for that particular driver that you are not able to talk to at the moment. How do you safely load? You need to show that you have told your drivers that articles in a tier must have the same shape, the same size, the same mass. Some boxes could be put on the floor and they look the same size. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're the same weight. Those are the issues that you need to make sure that your operators are aware of, and you need to have a record of such training. On the second one level there, you can actually see that the box sizes look the same, but one weight is 1,800 kgs, the other weight is 1,200 kgs. That now becomes an uniformly distributed load, which is against the staking regulations 8. The bottom one, the same way as well. The boxes look the same size, but the weights are different. Even the way they need to load, you need to show that you have shown them the correct way of loading. That the first one with the tick is the correct way to load. The second one you cannot, because it is creating point loading. How the pallets must look like. That is, there is an entryway. We always start with the picking position. So a pallet that is 1200 wide by 1 meter deep, it will be placed on a rack that takes a pallet that is a meter deep. The one that is a meter wide by 1200 deep takes the space that is actually designed for a 1200 deep pallet. You need to show them that you cannot load a pallet this way because it was on the 70-30%. So when you try and lift it up, it will tilt over. You need to show that on fig 4 there, this is the correct way of loading your pallets. The top one, if the pallet is one ton, but the rack itself can carry 2 tons, will not have an effect on loading, but however, you lose pallet positions because space is wasted. On the bottom one, fig 6, if you've got a 2-ton pallet, you need to make sure that the pallet is wide enough so that it doesn't create point loading. You need to train them about what that rack load specification board means and why it must be followed. You cannot just place it and hope that they will read on their own and follow. You need also to document and tell them that they must not overload and give the reasons as they are stated there. You need to show them that should they offload and see that the beam still remains deflected, there is a problem, they must actually consult the manufacturer. You must actually also show them the correct way. I heard the previous speakers were actually talking about the changes in requirements, that you cannot just, because fitting of the beams is not rocket science. Anyone can actually start the installation team doing that in one day. They will be able to change the levels. But it's not allowed simply because the reason it is installed, the way it is installed, there is an engineering calculation involved. Once you start fiddling with the spacing and loading, changing the scope of work that the manufacturer did put there, when you pick up a problem, it becomes your problem as a client. You need also to prove that you have actually shown your workers that this is dangerous situations. When they see a situation like that, they must report. A pallet must actually be loaded correctly, because if you load it like that, always could be not wide enough. Those that are passing by can actually hit that pallet. If it is rusted at the bottom like that, the integrity is lost because it's no longer able to carry the same capacity that it was designed to carry. You can see on this other one, they try to weld on their own. Once you weld still, you weaken its carrying capacity. That must not be done. You must actually prove that you have trained employees on all that. Broken pallets, you state that they must not be used. Housekeeping is important because, as we saw from that video, that incident was caused by the fact that the forklift driver was trying to avoid the pallets that were on the floor. Situations like that must not be allowed to exist in the warehouse. When we've got situations like that, you must actually make sure that you clean up, you barricade the area. No, but actually works unsafe. You're expected to keep the training records. You are expected to have the inspection records. Also showing the correct way that they should actually be loading, demonstrating there that the rods must actually be straight and they must be anchored. Check for snake effect, because a racking could have been bumped. So they need to be checking all these parameters. You need to make sure that whenever they are actually checking, it must actually be neat like this at all times. Then the inspector concludes that there's good supervision, continuous training, good housekeeping, and plant maintenance. Only then they leave the employer alone and go to the employee. What if the employee negligence caused an accident and a person died or could have died? In this situation, there's a chance that this employee died, so you cannot go to jail. But had he survived, he could still go to jail for being negligent, because the employer, the inspectors will then drag the employee to court, not the employer. We need to avoid fines, and once they find out that the employee is guilty, and that is why it is important for your employees to understand this. Employees don't follow laws most of the time thinking that it's the problem with the employer. The employee, on his personal capacity, if that driver did not die, he will be fined 50,000 or 1 year in jail or both. And at low level, as a forklift driver, the chances you won't have 50,000, then he goes to jail. How do we mitigate all these risks? We need to ensure that okay. We need to ensure that outside are clear and visible, install production devices. It's unfortunate that the videos could not play. I needed to show you the protection around the racking system, and it is expected that as the end user, you maintain it like that. You need to practice good housekeeping, properly train supervisors and operation staff, enforce speed limits, choose the correct pallet racking system, provide regular pallet racking inspections, and also press up for the coming new law. This is our contribution as SIOSH safety people, in that we say the legislation is not descriptive enough to assist both the employer and the employees. Section 8, this is the amendment bill, but it hasn't been gazetted into law yet. But however, I've just checked the cases of the companies that have been charged. The inspectors are already looking for this, because the way they actually look at the charge sheet that they will actually find you guilty, looking for risk assessment, training records, it's not there on the current legislation. So it will very soon be introduced. So it is now going to be very clear, because A has been changed to say conducting a workplace specific risk assessment, and thereafter developing and implementing a risk management plan in writing in respect of every risk identified, ensuring that the workplace specific risk assessment is conducted by a person or persons who are competent to pronounce all the risks associated with that workplace, ensuring that the workplace specific risk management plan is in place and available at the workplace when requested by the inspector, ensuring that no work is undertaken unless the control measures contained in the risk management plan are completed, with ensuring communication of the relevant components of the risk management to every employee. The new law is coming with these fines. Breach of Section 8 is now 5 million, not 100,000 anymore, or 5 years in jail. So as businesses, we need to prepare for this on time and make sure that people understand what the legal requirements are. Safety is as simple as APC. Always be careful. Team together, everyone achieves more. At ACRO, we like kissing. Keep it safe and sound. Thank you very much.
My leader. Please don't leave yet. Where is Ms. Sandra Moya, the CEO? Are you now clear on why he is the safety person of the year? Because I am. We're all in the same spot. Okay, so what do you want? Do you wanna go home early every Friday?
Yes, please.
You want a corner office?
Yes, please.
Are you making notes? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sure. And that wraps up our speakers on IT and warehousing, preventing automation and how to overcome it. And I'm going to call our president, Mr. Alvin Harris. Please come to the front, sir. He's going to facilitate our last panel, which is going to be the panel members. Please come back. Sorry, I shouldn't have let you go. Mr. Lidankala, Me Ananwaketo, and Gerard van Zyl. Please really come back. Thank you very much. And I'm done. I will see you at lunch.
Bring your water from the tables. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are running just a little bit late, which tends to be the case. When we try and start early, I think we by now maybe about 5 minutes or another 10 minutes late from the 10 minutes that we started our whole day a bit later this morning. But let's see if we can catch up a little bit. Yeah, I think we had an interesting afternoon, second round of discussions. I think the morning was very high tech, and the afternoon, the second session was not necessarily low tech, but what we're working with in existing systems, and I think Gerrit, you probably were the best bridge between the two sets of talks, speaking about the hybrid situations and what do we do with the new stuff coming on board versus what are current realities and how do we deal with it. So I think I wanna just start there and touch base with maybe all three of you again. What are the best ways that we can look at these hybrid systems? Because we obviously have what we have as practical systems and technologies and operations and processes. We have the people with their current training, levels of training and so on that we have. We're not necessarily seeing in schools, universities, and such like vocational training that there's any significant move towards training people for the new stuff as yet. So what are maybe some of the practical ways that we look at marrying the old and the new? Anna, you've gone from very old to old. Maybe some of your experience will help us to go from the current to the very new. Any of you?
Firstly, I'm amazed they asked me back for a panel discussion. This is the last time I kind of took over, but anyway. Look, I think it all starts off with one needs to first decide where you are and where do you want to be. The old anecdote that goes, if it's worked for the last 20 years, why change it, is obviously not relevant anymore. But I think it's imperative that you need to do a very good self-assessment in your business, in your organization, and say, listen, where do I want to be in the next 5 years? And for me to get into the next 5 years, what do I need to do? Is it going to be hard automation? Is it going to be soft automation? Is it going to be a combination? Is it going to be a hybrid model? But that will only be established because each and every single business has got a different requirement. And we're all aware of all the shortcomings and all the challenges and everything else. But it doesn't help we all go now and say, well, I'm now going to borrow 100 million rand because I need to automate, otherwise I'm going to stay behind. That's not the case. Your industry might not require full automation right now. It might need a hybrid model. But for somebody like myself or one of the other colleagues in the first session that are into the technology space, we can't tell you that. All we can tell you is what's available out there. What you need to decide is, where do I want to be? And then we will come and say, okay, perhaps you need to follow the following path. but have a very good understanding of what your 5 and 10-year vision looks like, because you might start off with a hybrid model, but you might end up ultimately in a full automated environment. And that's kind of the best approach, I would think, is to know where you want to go and then decide on a roadmap there. If you want to go to Cape Town, I guess you can go many roads to Cape Town. You can go via Singapore to Cape Town if you want to, but ultimately you need to know where you want to go.
I would align with Harold on that one, more so in a sense that, you know, at the end of the day, it's about offering your services efficiently. So you need to check into the market. What is it that works for you? And as he has said, we are in Africa. As much as we'd like to always measure ourselves with other companies, you need to be realistic and actually put systems in place that will actually work for you. And actually making sure that whilst doing these changes, you also change the culture in your operations, because it's all good having all these things in place. But if people cannot adapt to the changes you're putting in place, it's all useless at the end of the day.
Yeah, as one of my previous bosses always used to say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so if the culture is not changed, you definitely are going to be in deep trouble. Leader, you have something to add on that note, sir?
I agree with you, because change has joined the other two certainties, death and taxes. If you don't change, you will be left behind. But the biggest thing that I've actually learned here is whether you change or you don't change, the ranking structures will be required. Thank you.
You can keep that mic, because luckily Harry hooked me up here. I just wanted to send an invitation out to our online audience. We know that for the morning session, we took all the questions of the delegates in the room. Online audience, if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section, and we will do our best to take a few questions from there and then have them answered. Or Harry will unmute you, raise your hand, Harry will unmute you, and you can then pose a question. Some of our speakers from the morning session are still here as well. So even if you have some questions for them, we'll take those questions. During the tea break, I did have a very interesting conversation with one of the attendees, one of the people that represents Nestle. And I think she was sharing some very interesting perspective on the actual equipment being used and some of the challenges. Yes, there's been a lot of development and a lot of improvement in the reliability and functionality of the actual equipment, the robots and the automated vehicles and such like. But I just want to invite her to maybe share with us some of the insights from a practical experience that you have picked up in operations, that all does not necessarily go smoothly, and it also does not necessarily go on time. If you would maybe, Harry, just the mic there. I think it's a colleague from Nestle. And I think it's interesting perspectives, because we had two speakers speak on the warehousing automation issues. We had Munye speak on the broader supply chain issues. We had some details on the racking and the stacking and the transport issues. But if you can share with us maybe some insights on the actual equipment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tapara Budi. I am a technical operator ensuring smooth operations of LGVs and all conveyors, all automated parts in the DC. So the conversation we had, it was basically about how to go about automating the warehouse. So I was explaining that it's not always a smooth operation. It's also, I get how everyone is like excited about the advantages and the benefits that comes with an automated DC or warehouse, but it's not always the case. So we do have like extreme challenges, whereby I also referenced the other speaker, like preparing your warehouse would come with like extreme importance. like ensuring that the floors of your warehouse are like smooth enough to actually handle the LGVs, the laser guided vehicles, the height of your doors in the warehouse. So also with the safety, like ensuring that your pallets, everything that goes into the warehouse is of good quality, and it matches the safety standards. Because one mistake, I mean, those LGVs are highly sensitive. The PLSs are very sensitive. So anything on the floor, it will obstruct them, they will stop. So there's a lot of challenges that goes into like having an automated warehouse. So yeah, that is like basically the reality of having the equipment. Because yeah. All right. So I can like answer any other questions that you may have. Yeah.
Sorry, hi. I wanted to know the robots that you have, is that the problem that you're having housekeeping, therefore the robots are not functioning?
People can't hear you. People can't hear you.
They are functioning. So the housekeeping obviously has to be like spotless. Like any small paper on the floor, water, like they will stop. So that's like something that you have to keep in mind, that the housekeeping has to be spotless. So they also operate like on precise measurements. So if you say this is an LGV part and there's a pallet hanging from the rack, like maybe on the floor, they will stop. They will violate the PLSs and they will stop in terms of they'll go in alarm. And like they sense the obstruction that's on the floor, because they obviously don't know where they are traveling, what could be there. So it's part of like the safety of the LGV. So they have to like stop.
So does that not improve your safety, because all of a sudden there is there's so many requirements to ensure that all the pallets are in conformity, that the aisles are clean and clear, and that there obviously is not going to be any impacts of any sort. So wouldn't you say that automation actually improves the safety? Therefore, after leaders' presentation and implication of not being safe sort of outweighs the problem of the housekeeping. And also another question is the automated vehicles you have, how do you find the maintenance thereof? And we've got enough skills in South Africa to maintain them and to ensure that they're always running, and spare parts and continuous preventative maintenance on the vehicles?
It does improve. It does improve the safety, definitely. That's why I was like, okay, it improves the safety in terms of making sure that all the pallets that come into the warehouse, the conveyor does that. It makes sure that all the pallets that come into the warehouse matches the quality standards. They meet the quality standards. Anything that doesn't meet the quality standards will be rejected from the conveyor. It won't even enter the warehouse. So the LGV won't even pick up the pallet to the rackings. So it does improve safety. It does make sure that everything is like matches the standards. In terms of skills, that's like another challenge. It's like a reality and it's a challenge, and it's sad. It's really sad, because obviously as a technical operator, I can only do so much. So it's very important for our engineers, especially in universities, that they are taught how to like merge their skills with automation, because a lot of engineers that we have right now, I don't think they're in line with the automation. So yeah, we have a lot of the LGVs that I would probably take them to maintenance, because I can only do so much, and other things will require an engineer. And in South Africa, from our side, we haven't found anyone that does the maintenance. So yeah.
There's some feedback there, unfortunately, it's a little bit disturbing. But thank you. And I think, thank you. You ladies can talk a little bit more at lunchtime. And anybody else that have some questions on the machines themselves, the robots, the laser-guided vehicles, and such technologies as is currently being implemented there. Any other questions? And I want to give also one more opportunity to Gerard, because you did touch on that in your presentation about the skills in the IT departments. And I think this touches on beyond outside the IT departments. Where are we getting these skills from to maintain these machines? It's unfortunate that we're not even talking yet about building these machines here, but okay, we hope in the next 100 years we'll get to that. But can you speak also, Gerard, quickly from your side on the capacity issue with the skills on the engineering and technical side to maintain the equipment?
I'm going to try and do my best not being controversial on that topic, because it boils down, I mean, when I hear you, we're going to build this stuff, I want to say baby steps now. But the reality of this is it starts from our education system. Let's not kid ourselves. We have got a massive challenge in South Africa in terms of education, and we can color it in whichever way we want to. We have got a major, major challenge. Now, for us to create those skills, I actually want to say, if we're not going to start earlier with science and maths at school level, we are not going to create these engineers. We're not going to create those people that's going to have the skill set to be able to service robots and to be able to become technicians and software people that can deal with these problems. Because I just look at our IT department internally, which is a bunch of millennials that, and no offense to any millennials, you guys are a breed on your own, and I am really appreciative of your skills. I still find it extremely difficult, but I do appreciate you. The complexity of it, however, is that base from where they came from. It's not a very solid foundation. And the moment you throw complexities in the system, it says, well, I'll rather move on to something else. And that is my personal concern, is if we're not going to address it at school level and create it into varsity level and make it a space where people are actually properly educated with a proper science and mathematical foundation, we're going to have to bring the skills in from overseas. We're going to have to bring the skills in from somewhere else. And the difficulty now becomes is we have seen what happens in countries like Lesotho, Botswana, where they start then and saying, but hold on, what about our own people? We are going to make sure that legislation protects us. I mean, in Botswana and in Lesotho now, if you within the container industry, within the textile manufacturing, those can only be done by 100% Lesotho-owned companies. Not even foreign companies that comes with lots of money. If you're not 100% Lesotho-owned, you will not transport a textile container. The same in Botswana. And my concern is that is a very reactive way of solving a problem. And I know it's not something we perhaps can address here, but my feeling is the companies like the automotive companies that are heavily in automation start academies, start training centers, start centers of excellence, that we can at least try and preempt this thing that might happen or will happen, not might, will happen in the next 5 years. So that we can, for the Nestle, if I may use you as an example, why don't you, as part of your training processes, start a center of excellence, identify skills, and start training programs within your organization to train up technicians? So if we're going to wait for somebody else to do it, I'm sorry to say it's not going to happen.
I think I saw a hand at the back there and a question, Harry. I have not yet seen. Are there any questions from our viewers online? There's a question at the back there, Harry. And here as well. Okay, thank you. Here and there at the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Katlago Apis, and I'm from the Global Federation of Chambers. And my question is in regards to the contribution of automating the workplace and the effect it has on global warming and the environment and the planet and the earth, and because that's a lot of technology. And with the interconnectedness of the devices and the systems and the whole thing, what are the effects on global warming in that regard, as well as training? At the moment in South Africa, do we have the capacity to open those training facilities and colleges and to teach the workforce before we even get to the varsity students, to teach the people that are working with these automated machines today on how they work, how they can be safe around them? Because I'm assuming that with all the technology that's going on with these machines, they do affect the human body in some way. In the past, we've had stories of not being a good idea to sleep with your phone under your pillow because it's got some sort of ray that will cause cancer in 10 years. And so I'm thinking in my mind, if I go to work every day and I'm working in this warehouse with all these big machines, is it affecting me in the long run? Should I be worried about my health? Is it something that we're talking about when we're talking about health and safety in the workplace? Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good question as well. We'll take the next question then. Colleagues, I think if after this round, we might take one or two more. We are quite late now, and I would like to
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
to enjoy your
my name
lunch.
is Oscar.
Sorry, one second. So after this question, I think we'll take maybe one or two more short and sharp questions. And I'm going to ask the panel also to be short and sharp with their responses. And then we're going, be free then to have our lunch, not to rush you too much, and also see the last of the exhibits there. So over to your questions.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oscar. My name is the company is Trading Invest. My question is addressing to technology to stay in Africa. And then also, as I hear the past many years that South Africa has got the platinum that we can use in hydrogen, which we got the hydrogen industry is a trillion industry. But the problem is that the Africa, even we are rich in resources. We got lithium, all those resources, platinum. But we are busy importing, taking the economy that was supposed to stay in Africa. We put it outside, it's going outside. Instead of getting this technology, building this industry in Africa, how can we improve that? Not having own industry that's going to be in Africa, employing, reducing unemployment, doing that industries to stay in Africa, to be in Africa, so that we can reduce unemployment, we can reduce poverty. Because without addressing that elephant, I think Africa, we're going to be left behind. And then those other countries going to passing us through.
Thank you. I think to some respects, I think all three, two of the questions asked as I think been answered, I think as best we could in the broad sense, not having the details. One, we know we don't have the training capability. I think there was mentioned that the companies themselves needs to start some academies and training centers and so on. We need to plug the gap. I think to your question regarding the training of current personnel, as companies roll out and bring and map out, do all these things, what's my best solution, how long, what's the cost benefit to my company, all of that. Obviously, in that kind of exercise, they then do need to figure out how are they going to then train the staff that needs to use these machines. So I think that of the current training is in there. We spoke about, I think, the challenge with the lack of the technical skills for the ongoing maintenance of the machines once they are here. I think as well, again, to your question of having the technology, the intellectual property, the capability to design, build, manufacture here. I think that point was made that we're very far from that point. Although we might have the natural resources in some cases for these things, the intellectual capacity is simply just not there. The manufacturing capacity is simply just not there. So there needs to be massive drives as people speak about building smart cities and things like that. We need our own Silicon Valley and massive grand plans dotted across Africa. How do we get into this game? So I don't know that there are any other answers that we can offer. Yes. The one question that we did not touch on yet is the issue of the environmental impact of these technologies and machines and systems on the environment and on the people that work daily in these warehouses. Gerrit?
I'm not for a moment going to imagine that I'm an expert on this at all. However, if you think about it, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you got onto an aircraft, they said to you, please switch off your phone. You're not allowed to use it on the airplane. Now you can fly with Emirates all the way to wherever you want to fly, and you can use your phone on, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got everything on there. And now the reason why they initially said that please don't use your phone is because they weren't quite clear what the impact of that on the aviation, on the avionics on the aircraft was going to be, and what the potential impact of that cell phone usage on that aircraft is going to be. They've subsequently realized that there's a bigger chance of you probably dying on that plane than that plane going down because of a cell phone usage on that plane. So as we go along, we're going to figure out a lot of stuff as far as technology is concerned. I do have a different take on the global warming thing, and that's my personal view, and I want to make it very clear. That's me, my personal view. It's not my organization. It's not anybody else's. Global warming is a real issue. I'm not going to deny that. But I think it depends where you find yourself in the world, how important that is to you. If you're going to a little village in Kampala in Uganda and you're going to speak to them about global warming, they're going to tell you, listen, I'm trying to stay alive here. I don't care about global warming. The bigger corporates is all talking global warming because it's a nice topic and it's a good feel thing. I'm doing something. But the reality of it is, we are faced with massive, massive challenges around global warming. And wherever we can make an impact and make it better, I do believe we should do that. Is this whole automation process going to help in terms of global warming? It depends. It depends where you're going to get your power from. How are you going to charge the batteries that these robots work with? Because if it's going to come from Eskom on a coal-fired power station, guess what? You're going to just enhance the whole CO2 emission issue. But if you're going to go the route of renewable energy, then obviously automation is going to help. It's the same. It's if you're using a diesel-powered forklift versus a gas-powered or electric power. Depends how you do it. So the answer to it is automation going to increase global warming? It all depends on how we apply it. Itself is not going to do it, but the how is going to impact.
Thank you, Leader. Thanks, Gerrit.
Thank you for the opportunity. The question that was raised earlier on to say, what are we doing about the education because we have got lack of skills? I'm a governor at the schools, and 7 years ago when Panyaza Lesufu was the MEC for education, he did a pilot project for twinning of schools. He approached 3 different schools and they refused. When he approached Sunward, where I'm a governor, we agreed. 6 years ago, we then approached him and said, we see that there is a lack of technical skills in South Africa. We are asking the Department of Education through you to allow us to form a school of excellence where we do math and science only. The government gave us a 15 million, they built that school. This year we have had the first students going to the university and with 100% pass rate. So as citizens of South Africa, let's use our influences in the spaces where we work.
Thank you, colleagues. I think there is one more burning question. Otherwise, we're going to leave it to lunch. Sir, you are the lucky man for the last question. And then that will be it. Unfortunately, we could not get to some of the questions that our online audience may have posed. I'm terribly sorry about that. But we will go to our, I do hope that some of your questions were related to what has been asked in the room. And we will go over to the last question and then we will close. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So a question maybe just open to the room. If there's any warehouse that's already been automated and maybe there's a visit coming up, I think it would be nice to invite some people there and we can all have a look without putting someone on the spot. So I think something open, warehouse people can always go and see and have a look there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I then ask that you give one more warm round of applause to our speakers and panel members? Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand over to our MC for the closing and the closing prayer.
Absolutely, yes. Not a closing prayer, but a closing blessing with gifts, right? We've got a raffle that's going to happen very, very quickly. Please, can we have our sponsors all lined up here, starting with Toyota, Harry, Acro, and Mamuja, so it goes really, really quickly. We've got some lucky spot prizes. Who's going to be fastest fingers first? Whoever gets to the front first will get to draw first. Toyota, I see Toyota coming. Harry, where are you? There's Harry. Madam from Acro, would you like to? Yes, please. And where's my friend from Mamuja? Where is she? All right, you can go first, ladies first. Okay. Just shake your hand in there, and then they get to win that lovely hamper of wine, right? Is it?
Yes, it's the chair. Oh, no. And it's the plastic box.
Okay, so we've got Omega Makawe.
Where are you, Omega? Omega. Omega, do you drink wine, baby, or can I take it off your hands? Congratulations. Very nice. Congratulations. Very nice. Thank you. Toyota's up next.
Denzel Peter from Acro.
Denzel Peter from Acro, is that allowed? Where's Denzel? Congratulations, Denzel. Please come get your prize.
Thank you.
Tour from Value Logistics.
That's to make up for the pressure that one Gerard van Sail, hey? The people from Value have your blood pressures kind of stabilized now. We're breathing normally now. Congratulations. Last one from Mamoja. Is that going to one person or multiple people? To one person. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, look away.
Yeah.
You're failing the audit to Mamuja. And the lucky person is?
Profile of myself. Oh, no. Tobile Ntuli from SKT Group.
Tobile, where are you? There's Tobile. Congratulations. Well done, everybody. Apologies for keeping the proceedings a little bit late. We are now adjourned. Please stay for lunch in that room or in that room. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you had a great time. Okay.